It's me, Sarah Lohman, co-host of CityCast Las Vegas. And if you haven't heard the news yet, we are starting a bomb-ass new membership program. I joined this team because I want to get to the bottom of all things that make the Valley tick, like our episodes on sex clubs, celebrity chefs, and our love for the monorail. And every Friday, I get to sit down with my co-hosts and some of the Valley's newsiest news people to cover all the stories that get Las Vegans riled up. Plus, my favorite thing about this job is sharing that insider knowledge with you. If you become a member today, you'll get ad-free listening, and as a founding member, you'll be permanently enshrined on our website for all to see. So if you enjoyed this podcast, head over to lasvegas.citycast.fm to join. The Fontainebleau, the Strip's newest hotel, is definitely an object of curiosity for locals. But is that fascination born from hope or from the grim, I can't look away of an epic disaster? Today on CityCast Las Vegas, we have journalist Arash Markazi, who has had a front row seat to the Fontainebleau's unique trajectory. He lives right across from it. We'll get his inside perspective on whether the Fontainebleau will make a fortune or be a flop. It's Wednesday, February 28th. I'm Sarah Lohman, and here's what Las Vegas is talking about. Arash, I know you get this question all the time, but what is it like living on the North Strip?
It's unique, you know. I mean, it's not far from the resort corridor, but I realized very quickly no one wants to come out here. So I would often have to go visit friends at Caesars or Mandalay Bay or somewhere else.
Oh, like visiting friends. Because my friends make me drive to frickin' Summerlin all the time from Henderson.
Oh, I do that all the time.
So, like, North Strip doesn't seem so bad.
I love it, you know, and when I came here, I wanted to be close to the Strip. You know, when I decided to move to Las Vegas, clearly there was that, do you want to go to Henderson? Do you want to go to Summerlin? I love being Strip, right near the Strip.
Really?
I don't know, like, I like the action. I'll give you an example. When I lived in New York for a year, I lived right by Times Square. So I just like being close to the action. I think there's a lot of potential on the North Strip. The folks who've been here a lot longer than I have has kind of joked saying, like, yeah, they've been talking about that for 20 years.
Sure.
But, I mean, you have to realize what the North Strip is all about. It's the Strat. It's Circus. And, and so I have to explain to people, what is the north end of the Strip. And basically, for those who are not familiar, most of the people who are tuning in probably are. But, like, once you walk past the Wynn, you're basically on the North Strip, where it's not resort. You're going to have a strip mall. You're going to have like a vacant lot. You're going to have a parking lot. But I enjoy it. I really do.
And you mentioned some of the older and stranger properties of the Las Vegas Strip, the Strat and Circus. But of course, now our newest casinos are popping up there. First Resorts World and now the Fontainebleau. So for those who may not know the Droms, that's my short for drama. I think I might have just made that up. What is the trajectory of the Fontainebleau? What happened to this project?
So the issue with the Fontainebleau, well, first of all, it is a fascinating story that could be like its own podcast in terms of its history of, they break ground in 2007, I think. Mm-hmm. Obviously, the economic crash happens. There's various reports of how, but basically the shell of the hotel is completed. They're either somewhere between 50 to 75 to 90% done. And then it's just there. And the shell of the hotel stays that way for well over 10 years, 15
abandoned.
years.
They
16,
lost funding, right? And then the recession happened.
And it got to a point, this was a little bit before the pandemic, where they were like, just tear this thing down. This is just a huge reminder of the financial collapse, the Great Recession. Like, what are we looking at? So, that was my view, this shell of this hotel that, I'm even trying to figure out, what it looked like back then, because they were very secretive, but...
A lot of, wafting plastic, that's... Yeah, from, out of windows, that kind of thing.
When you go watch those documentaries about the Titanic and what it looks like when you go down below, I'm like if you walk through it prior to them actually saying, okay, we're actually going to revive this, and what did that look like? So
yeah, was it just a shell? Or was like the marble already in there?
I think it was just the shell, and if
Yeah.
they had done anything more to it, like I mean, I didn't see it, but the name changed, right? Like it was the Fontainebleau originally, then it changed hands, and then it was going to become the Drew.
Mm.
Perhaps there was like another name in between, and then once again the Fontainebleau. And so this happened right before the pandemic, where it was basically the Fontainebleau reacquired it,
Mm-hmm.
and they finally got the funding and a timeline for it to be completed.
And for those who don't know,
So
the
yeah,
Fontainebleau is a very famous old
yes,
Miami, like very expensive resort hotel.
exactly. You know, right, South Beach, Collins Avenue, historic as you mentioned, so much history behind it. So what they're famous for in South Beach, like, is there's no sign. Like the Fontainebleau doesn't have a sign. Like you know about it, you know what's on Collins, you know what's on the beach. So that's kind of what this hotel has as well. It's this big blue building, but there's no
Yeah.
sign. So if you know about it, you know about it. And but it is fascinating. I mean, when you look at the strip when it was being built, the Riviera was there, and a lot of these hotels that are no
Yeah.
longer there. I mean, like the strip has changed so much since when they broke ground to when they finally opened the doors.
Yeah, so that was December 13th, 2023, so just a few months ago. And definitely the marketing teams of the Fontainebleau painted this as this great success, this huge story. It comes back into the Fontainebleau hands. But you've been watching this all go down literally out your window of where you live on the north end of the strip. And in January, you published an article on the now folded Messenger. But we did find a copy of it. We're going to put it in the show notes so people can read it. And you called the Fontainebleau a bad bet. So why did it seem like a bad bet to you?
Well, here's the thing, and it's so interesting because this a story, Sarah, I found out since the site folded was the most trafficked story in the site's history, which is really
You could have
kind
saved
of
the
cool.
Messenger.
I know, right? Like more Vegas hotel stories, by the way, Sarah,
More
is what I
Rosh.
should have done. Yeah, but I think it connected with so many people because of the backstory behind it, but really the personal side of this. Again, I want the Fontainebleau to succeed, by the way. And I think when people read the story, I was kind of disheartened that they're like, oh, like I was going to go, but now I'm not going to go because I read your story. I said, no, the point of my story was I want the Fontainebleau to succeed. I
Yeah.
want the North End to be successful. What happened, and again, like as we're recording this, this is where they're at right now, and we'll see. I have the hope and belief that they will change their ways. But anyway, so they like opened up the Fontainebleau, and just really from the beginning did not embrace the locals, did not
Yeah.
embrace locals like myself who again can walk there. I mean, Sarah, like as I'm talking to you, I am looking at the Fontainebleau. Like that is my view of my house is the Fontainebleau. So it's not like I want this thing to not work. Like I want it to be successful. But they opened up with this like arrogance of we're the Fontainebleau in South Beach, in Miami.
Right.
What makes that hotel so beautiful? It is right on the ocean. It is a
Ah.
stunning view of the ocean and the white sands, and you could go out and sip a drink and go to the beach and come to the pool. And listen, I say this as someone who is very proud to live on the North Strip. It's not beautiful, and that's okay, but you have to realize where you are at. And I think foot traffic wise, and foot traffic is when you talk about why don't the resorts on the north end of the strip, why are they not successful?
Mm-hmm.
One of the biggest reasons is foot traffic. And I would say, and I'm not going out on a limb here, I think the Fontainebleau is probably like the worst location foot traffic wise. It is
Yeah.
on one side, there's a huge lot that was going to become the like all net arena, and that's not going to happen. And I mean, who knows what that's going to be? But a huge gap there. And on the opposite side is where the Riviera once was, and now it's a huge convention center parking lot that
Right.
basically no cars ever parking. It's like you're getting zero foot traffic.
Unlike the south
And
end of
so,
the strip,
yeah,
all those casinos are connected. You can I actually
exactly.
just did this recently. I walked from MGM Grand, like all the way to Paris with a friend, and just bopped in and out of the casinos. You can't do that. Resorts World is kind of in its own little island up there.
Yeah.
So,
Like court, like any resort on the north end of the strip, you've made a conscious effort to go there. Whereas in the resort corridor, you check into your hotel and you'll see where the night takes you. You'll maybe
Right.
check in to the Bellagio, but the night will take you to the Cosmo and to Caesars or
Right.
whatever. Like you have made the if you go to the Fontainebleau, you've
You're there.
tried, like you've prepared and you're going there.
You got to get on that monorail, really. But then, like, you
And yeah,
can't,
that's not convenient
it's not
because it
convenient.
takes you to Sahara, and
Yeah.
then you got to walk across that like lot. Which, to be honest, Sarah, like at night, and I will still
No.
say this about them,
Yeah.
it's not a great walk at night. So yeah,
No, you have to take a like an Uber to the monorail, and then I just took the monorail for fun, honestly. One of the things that shocked me about your articles, you sort of dipped into this, that like they weren't welcoming locals, is that you mentioned that a lot of new casinos would do like resort matching. That's not quite the name for
yeah.
it, right?
It's like tier matching, which is
Tier matching.
basically to say, hey, listen, like I'm a local, like I live here, on the low end, like I don't want to pay for parking. I
Yeah.
don't want a resort fee, like little things like that. In the big scheme of things, listen, if you're a big time player, but what it is you don't want to start from scratch. So like if
Yeah.
you live in Las Vegas and you go to Caesars and you're diamond status at Caesars, which
You're a
means
big
what?
player.
Like yeah, you're a big player. Or to be honest, there are some places do a really good job with this with locals where like if you're not a big player, but you like eat and drink there and you shop there
Yeah.
and you support. But what Fontainebleau essentially did, and this is for people who live in my complex, which a lot of us were very turned off, like, no, like we're good. Like you can prove yourself to us and you got to pay for
Yes.
parking and you got, if you want to stay here, you'll pay the resort fee and it's little things, but in Vegas, the little things
No,
mattered.
it's irritating. Like you mentioned that tier matching is a way for newer casinos to bring in, people who might be loyal to Caesars or something like that too, that give them all the little perks that make them feel welcome. And I think you mentioned they did that for a little bit, and then they were like, we're good. There were too many people coming in.
Like that was almost worse, Sarah, because they said they were not going to tier match, which is like okay, but we're like all of us locals are still going to go to check it out because I mean, like how can you
Sure.
not? This thing has been there for 16 years. And then we got word from other people and we got confirmed by the Fontainebleau, which is like, oh yeah, like we decided to do tier match for like one day, but like now we're not going to do it. And it was like, wait, that's actually like worse because like my neighbor got tier matched, but I didn't. Like it was just a weird thing.
And have you ever heard a casino say no, too many people are coming in? Like it just really sends this message of like,
Yeah.
we're not for you like townies or whatever. So can we
It
also
was
talk
weird.
about Nacho Gates and maybe like
Oh
why that
yeah.
became such a big thing?
Well, I mean, listen, if you're going to put nachos on your menu, you got to do nachos right. And I would think nachos would not be a hard thing to do. But if
Right.
your idea of nachos is whatever the picture was, 6 or 7 tortilla chips with the cheese and guac just on top of every like individual chip.
They released a
But it went,
statement that says they were trying to do sliders as like nachos, and that
no.
means yeah, 6 individual chips. Like it wasn't a lie. It really happened.
But it went to like my point, like I'm a big sports fan, so I went to the sports book, and
Yeah.
they had this whole thing where like, and again, this was not Super Bowl Sunday, this was not the playoffs, this was like a regular Sunday towards the end of the season, where it was like, if you wanted a table at the book for four, I forgot the price, but it was something like $5,000
It's
like minimum. I
insane.
said, and what it is they do not understand where they are located. Like I think that's a ridiculous price, period. But
Yeah, anywhere
listen,
on the
if
strip.
you're like, but like if you're Caesars, I guess maybe like have you have like a general concept of okay, like this is what we can get. You're on the north end of the strip, and so you have to do what like the Strat has done, Sahara has done, Circus. Like
Yeah.
you are really trying to get locals to come, but also you're trying to like entice people to come to you. And so with the Nacho Gate, it just drove home like I forgot what the price was, but it was like $20+ for 6 tortilla chips with cheese on them. It was just it's like, what are you guys doing here?
Yeah. And, there's also been some really high profile departures in the first couple months that it's been open too.
And here's the thing about that. Like when I wrote that story, it was really a first person story of here is my experience, and it wasn't good. And I was like, I have a bad feeling about this place. I could not have foreseen, Sarah, like the number of executives that have departed
So
within the
many.
first month, and you probably have the list in front of you. But like the COO, the CFO, like these are high level executives within 1 month. Which,
Yeah, yeah,
listen, if that happens over the course of your first year, it's tough. I have never seen a hotel within 1 month have that
yeah.
many executives leave.
Okay, so we're a couple months from the opening now. Has your opinion changed since then? Has the Fontainebleau regained some of its footing?
So I will say that I do still frequent it, and people are surprised. They're like, "Oh, do they welcome you?" And I'm like, listen, I'm not trying to stay there. I'm going there. Like, it is a beautiful resort. If you
Sure.
haven't seen it, I would recommend you go to it. Why not? I love jazz. The Nowhere Bar on the second floor is a fantastic place to sip a cocktail, have a cigar,
Ooh,
and watch live jazz. It is a
okay.
fantastic location. So what I've told people is my story was me basically saying, hey, this opening was bad.
Yeah.
Not, and that's not just my opinion. Like when you have that number of executives leaving within the first month, so something went wrong there. I am, I don't want to say I'm cautiously optimistic because I don't know how they're going to do.
Right.
What could happen like a couple years down the line, like is like a Caesars or like a MGM could come. You know what they don't have, Sarah, a database.
Mm,
They like the Fontainebleau in Miami, they don't play there. There's no gambling, so
right.
they got to build up the database, which is why the lack of tier matching made no sense to me because I was like, you got to build up a database of players here. And one of the signs that I saw there yesterday, actually, I just went there yesterday. They have like if you sign up for a card, they won't do tier matching, but they'll give you a $15 slot credit and a $15 food and beverage credit. Which like the joke that I made was like, all right, so you're gonna lose $15 at the slot machine and $15 credit at Fontainebleau is probably good for half a drink.
One of
Just
those
for probably
nachos.
exactly. So they're trying to whatever extent they're trying. I am hopeful they'll figure it out because I really do like it and I do want it to succeed.
So, what do you think that the Fontainebleau would need to be considered a success?
Well, financially, I don't think they'll be able to hit the marks for it to be a success. But again, I don't
Mm,
know
ever.
where. Well, what is a mark of success for them? I mean, they're not going to be profitable, but I think a lot of Coke industries and like their backers sometimes companies don't have to be profitable for them to be successful. And again, that's like a separate discussion. But I do think in time it can work. Now, the biggest thing with the north end of the strip is it has to be built out. It has to be
The whole
walkable. Like
neighborhood, not just one
yeah,
casino.
and to be honest, Sarah, like I don't know when that's ever going to happen. I mean, so like the resorts world is not successful yet, and that's
Right.
actually very close to the win and the encore. So, yeah, I mean, it's a great question. I mean, the fact that it got built and it's opened is a success story
That's
in my
enough for
view,
you.
right? Yeah.
Yeah, Arash, you seem really invested in the success of, I mean, the Fontainebleau, but really your whole neighborhood, north end of the strip. Do you think that Las Vegans as a whole should feel invested in the success of the Fontainebleau?
I've felt this when it comes to sports. And again, I say this as a sports fan, when they say, like, we want baseball and they want to tear down the Tropicana to build a baseball stadium, which is like the worst
Yeah.
location I could possibly think of. I keep thinking, and I'm looking at two like empty big lots of land
Yeah.
in front of me. I'm like, give some love to the north end of the strip. And again, like I say this because I think, like I really do view the strip as a Strat kind of or the Sahara, whatever, to
Hmm.
the Mandalay Bay, and so it'd be nice if those pockets were kind of filled up and like everyone kind of enjoys the success that like the Vegas has had and will continue to have. But yeah, like I kind of planted my flag on the north end of the strip just because like I really do enjoy being here. I love the people that I live near in my condo. They're great
Yeah.
people. And again, so listen, I mean, I have no financial investment outside of the fact that I live here, but it'd
Good
be nice
disclosure.
if Yeah, no, yeah, like I'm not like an investor in any of these things, but like it would be nice if, for example, if they got a Major League Baseball team, if they built it on the north end of the strip, like I could walk to the stadium. So
Yeah.
selfishly speaking, that would be nice.
So what you're saying is that Las Vegans should feel invested in you, Arash, and your welfare.
Yes.
Which is what it really
Or
comes down
spread
to.
the love. Listen, I'm not like the mayor. I'm not saying move to downtown. She made headlines not that long ago. Like, I just want a little bit of love for the north end of the strip.
Yeah.
We get no love. And by the way, I get that when I lived in Los Angeles, I was living in the San Fernando Valley. It's 100 degrees there. No one wants to come to the valley. I get it. People would rather be
You
by
love
the
a
beach
weird
and things
neighborhood.
like that.
I hear that.
I love it. I love it.
It's got personality. Well, Arash,
Yes.
please keep us updated with the Fontainebleau developments. We'd love to have you back. And thanks so much for this conversation.
Thanks so much for having me.
All right, that's all for today here on CityCast Las Vegas. If you enjoyed this show, why not tell a friend, rate the show? You know what? Send us a text or an email and let us know what your feelings are on the north end of the strip and Fontainebleau. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. Take care. 4 hours to get out of the parking lot?
One person posted that on TikTok. Now, maybe they're exaggerating and it was more like 2, but like, I don't know. Like, that is crazy to me. So
2 hours to get out of a parking lot is still insane. 2 minutes.
I think 1 hour, even 30 minutes is too much. So, yeah, I mean, you have to make it as convenient as possible for someone to come to your resort.